Does anyone speak my language? A short story by Andres Baca. I was stuck in the country where nobody spoke my language. I was in a city with tens of millions of people, but I felt alone, with nothing to offer but the lint in my pockets and the rotted Swiss cheese smile that even roaches would scatter away from. My presence amongst these beautiful masses of concrete and steel, and the temples of skin and bone which dwelled within them, was only an impediment. My extinction would go unnoticed. I merely took up space and consumed spare resources. The world was pushing me off the margins of existence towards an abyss into which only the forgotten fell. As I was watching a movie on my thumbnail, its soundtrack being directly routed to my auditory cortex, a well-dressed man with a briefcase beckoned me to come over. He was humming a tune which made a strange harmony to the audio of the movie which I thought only I was hearing. He drew me in with a smile, but when I got within handshake range, he hit me on the head and ran away with my luggage and my fingernail. I followed, and when I caught up with him, struggled to get my briefcase back. He yelled for help. Soon everyone from old ladies to little dogs came to his aid. I was pinned to the ground and taken to jail. There they asked me questions I couldn't understand. I looked at them, wildly perhaps, for they only beat me harder. It was similar to what happened the day before when I saw a sweet-looking, beautiful girl playing with a puppy. I walked to her to start a conversation, but the giggle stopped as soon as she saw a look at my ugly face, and it was replaced by a terrible look of fear. She ran away as fast as possible, but she soon composed herself and made an effort to hear my business, but I couldn't speak the language. She frowned. She didn't understand me. I started making gestures, but that only made things worse. She started walking towards the bus stop. I followed alongside, trying to communicate, but she could not understand. She started running away again. An opportunist came and pushed me away as the young people on the bus laughed in my face. I was thrown in jail because I couldn't speak the language. I was rejected by women for the same reason. That very day, during the cigarette break, I was surprised to find the thief again. He had passed by me and put a wad of things in my pants as the prison guards were searching us. I thumbed through my pockets. When the thief saw the item, a strange thing which I did not recognize, he reached his arms through the bars and opened his eyes wide as if he had made a mistake. But I did not give it to him. The police emptied his pockets and took out a knife. He had obviously thought of hiding in my pocket, but he was mistaken and put this strange item in my pocket instead. So I was surprised when the bail bondsman opened the cell for me and I stepped out. Someone had paid for my freedom, but who I could not answer. First thing I did before I got out of jail was to use my call to contact the company. Imagine my elation when I found out that the item could still be active. But I found that even with all the money that was at my disposal, people still did not understand me. I was let out of the walled prison for reasons I did not understand and sent off to the city, the prison without walls. And then everything went blank. It happened on my way to the airport, a trip which I'd been diligently wiping toilets for the past 3.25 years, with plans in the bucket for 27 more. In my unconscious state, some kind person took me to the hospital, where nobody spoke my language. The doctor probably kept asking me how I felt and where it hurt, but even if I spoke their language, I could not tell them because I did not even know myself. I passed out, and then I came to when the nurse was in the room. When she realized that my pockets were emptied, but all I'd been carrying in them was toilet paper to blow my nose, which always got stuffy. But wrapped in the center of the dirty toilet paper which is probably the reason why they did not dare touch it, was the item, the only thing of value that I had left. My wannabe mugger from earlier in the day had also knocked away my glasses, which shattered as they hit the ground. So my vision was bad. I could not see a thing from afar. I don't think the doctor was aware of that, because he kept making hand gestures from across the room which I couldn't see. I tilted my head, but he must have mistaken it for a nod, for they responded by flipping me and injecting my butt with a needle. How could I make it to the airport without being assaulted again? And once at the airport, would they suspect that I'm some kind of a psycho and detain me? My country's embassy was not an option. I had been ejected from it and forbidden from ever returning again. How would I get protection if I could not get in contact with someone who spoke my language? So I took a taxi. I sat in the back and I pointed my finger to the highlighted airport on my pocket map. But this time I was followed by the police. The taxi driver accelerated. Ah, the man was someone from my country. I could see the little flag on the mirror and the familiar facial features and skin color. What the hell did I do wrong? I shouted. The cabbie drove straight through 7 red lights in a row. Hello, can't you understand what I'm saying? I said. He answered something unintelligible in slurred speech. Yes, he spoke my language, but he was deaf. He was deaf. A police bike sped up alongside the taxi, telling us to pull over. And I yelled at the taxi driver even louder, telling him to stop. Yet since the taxi driver was deaf and couldn't understand me, he obeyed the gestures of the police officers and began pulling over. Then I snapped up, lunged over the front seat, forcibly took the wheel, put my foot on the accelerator, turned a few corners, and lost the police. The taxi driver jumped out of the car and barely missed being hit by another oncoming vehicle. I could still hear the sirens in the background. A helicopter came from beneath the horizon. A man on the side was firing a machine gun, but he was not shooting at us. He was shooting at the civilians, at anyone who had seen us, at any and all witnesses, and the police were doing nothing to stop them. The sirens blared behind, and the chopper whirred ahead, killing every citizen witness as it passed. Pedestrians were killed by gunfire, while cars and their drivers were destroyed by rocket launchers. Bystanders watched but did nothing, eyes wide, jaws agape. Some bystanders were left alone because they had signed non-disclosure agreements with the oil corporation not to reveal the technology of the item, a technology which could destroy their enterprise. Excuse me. The car sped through a tunnel. I lost the chopper, but they could still detect us from outside with heat-seeking technology, so they dropped bunker-penetrating bombs overhead which burst through the tunnel. Building blocks breaking behind me, over me, and ahead of me, crashing on cars which killed their drivers, marking the underground passage with giant shafts of random light. I deftly avoided the collapsing tunnels as best I could. A big part of the tunnel fell through the taxi, nearly killing me, but none hit me. None stopped me. At that instant, the traffic aligned to favor me. I sped through, leaving the police cars behind, and even though the bike still followed, I threaded my way through traffic as if guided by the invisible hand of some divine geriatric speed knitter. The gunners on the motorcycles chasing me shot the drivers of several cars on the superhighway so that thousands of cars careened out of control at hundreds of miles an hour. Meanwhile, the chopper overhead continued to attack automobiles with rocket launchers. Mini bombs were dropped from the chopper, creating holes in the concrete web of overpasses so that most drivers either exploded or fell through the punctures like dozens of ton-sized confetti. I dodged dozens of falling cars, swerved around several holes, including one that appeared to me with only 3.5 seconds of warning. I'm telling you, that day somebody up there was on my side. Then I saw that on the road behind me there were a group of school children who had been looking out at the beautiful view of the city's ocean. Their teacher was now running back, guiding them into the bus to seek refuge from the attack. Knowing that the chopper and motorcycles were killing any and all witnesses, and due to the greedy nature of the corporation, I doubted that they would discriminate against women and children. I drove on, looking at them becoming smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. I stopped, turned the car around, and drove back, swerving through all of the oncoming traffic as the enemy's helicopter guns targeted these children and their teacher on the highway sidewalk. I slammed my car into one of the enemy motorcycles. And as the gun flew out of the driver's hand, I caught it and put myself between the chopper and the school children. I was riddled with bullets and almost fell out of the taxi car. The gunner had my breaths numbered as he trained the machine gun at me. A little girl ran back and picked up the gun that I had dropped and shot wildly at the chopper. One of her shots hit the pilot right in his computer. The helicopter crashed into a building, but the bus carrying the school children left in the nick of time as heavy and large rubble fell behind it. I remembered the markings on the motorcycle. It was a symbol of the oil conglomerate Seacom. I limped my way to a building which a walkway extending from the superhighway extended to, the pain of the bullet wounds still not registering with the pain processors in my brain. I stumbled into a small church. Ahead I could see a beautiful woman silently weeping. Nobody seemed to notice her but me. I gently walked up to the bench and sat alongside her. I put my hand on hers and she turned around and smiled at me. She was crying and had a black eye. There was a loud screech. I looked out the window of the church. A man in a suit and tie stepped out of a limousine with the gunblade sheath on his back. He took off his sunglasses. I saw his face. I had seen him on TV before and in the Forbes publication. The sad woman turned around and seeing that her boyfriend was close behind, she kissed me. With that kiss, something sparked in my brain. Suddenly, I knew everything. I knew how the item worked. I knew why the sun shone. I knew why the sky was blue. I knew why birds chirped. I knew why the earth was made. I knew why I was here. I knew. The man walked up the aisle and towards the weeping woman. I stood between them, defiant. But he quickly knocked me away, sending me crashing through several aisles of wooden benches, his artificial limbs too strong for my bruised ones. He grabbed his girlfriend by the arm and began dragging her down the aisle towards the exit of the church. I pulled the item out from under the rug and activated it. The energy of all the suns in the universe pulsed in my hand. The power to make the world my own. The power to destroy the millions of people who rejected me. I considered it, and I very nearly did it. But no. I extended my arm and offered to exchange the item for this broken young girl. He dropped his girlfriend and ran towards me, grabbing the item, flipping it in his hands. Now he would become the richest, most influential man alive, but the most empty. I put my hand out. The girl grabbed it, and we walked outside. That is how I met my wife. We didn't speak the same language, but it did not matter. The item, the fortune, the fame, Those things didn't matter. I'd found something far more important. I'd learned the language of love. The end.